DreamHack Open is brought to you by Corsair, Monster Energy, Esport Management, and GGBet.
And welcome everyone to DreamHack Open Rio 2019 down here in beautiful Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And you know what, I usually say that, but this time I truly mean it. We got a chance to go see the city yesterday, and my God, it is gorgeous. Almost as gorgeous as that trophy on stage. Teams from around the world have come here to Brazil to fight for their chance at taking that trophy. I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsors that make that all possible: Corsair, Monster Energy, Esports Management, and GGBet. I've got two experts on the desk with me. I'm not going to say who I'm quotation mark experting here. It's going to be myself, and then we've got Dust and Potter joining me. Guys, have you had a fun time in Brazil so far?
What was that? No, we need to address the air quotes. What is that?
Well, I have a former professional player, one of the best female professional players of all time, and then
No
there's
doubting.
you.
I mean, I've had my few share of desk. Just saying.
Okay, I mean, I don't know if we can say expert yet, though.
What's all this sass? Where was this in rehearsal,
I think you're
Potter?
an expert,
I
Gus.
appreciate it.
So
Thank
this
you,
is
Potter.
this is because during the rehearsal you like deadpan me and just said yes. So
And that's
I
just how
decided
it
I was
works.
going to open up with
You gotta
a little
save
bit
it
of,
for the show, Bach.
I was going to hit you with a little bit of zazz, a little bit of razzle dazzle.
That's fair enough.
Taking a look at the groups, we've got 8 teams from around the globe that are here currently in Brazil ready to fight. We did end up losing one of the teams last minute over in Group B, but Group A is going to be Avangar, E-United, Furia, Ints. Group B is the sub-in team Redemption, POA, Valiance, Sharks, and W7M. Redemption coming in for, unfortunately, AGO, who you guys said it was an ear infection. A player couldn't make it.
Yeah, I think it was
Ear
Grubby
infection.
that had an ear infection. I know it was one of their players, at least.
Yeah, apparently he had a pretty severe ear infection, and taking a flight with all the pressurization and things could really jeopardize his hearing. And
That
so
does not sound like fun.
It does not, no.
I can't imagine the amount of pain one would go through with an ear infection and then all the elevation changes and the ear popping. I had told the story, there was a girl on my plane who couldn't deal with it, and she was like crying hysterically. I'm like, I would imagine that that's what it would be like, just crying in pain the entire time as you deal with that. First match is going to be coming up here on stage in just a minute. It's going to be E-United and Avangar in the stronger of the two groups. Group A right now looks seriously stacked.
Indeed, it does. I mean, you basically have, Avangar, who has been kind of representing Europe and has really been building up towards the top 15 of the world. Then you have Furia, who's really been kind of a monster in the Americas region and obviously a hometown favorite. And then, of course, United, INTZ, some teams competing in the EPL, certainly no strangers to competing at professional level of Counter-Strike as well within the Americas region. So certainly, I feel like everyone in that group thinks they should be able to make it through, and it's going to be very competitive to get to the playoffs from there.
For sure, and I'm keeping my eye on Furia. Quesarado, man, I can't wait to. I actually had a flight on my flight. Furia, everyone on Furia was actually on my flight, and I was sitting right next to them, just kind of fangirling, sitting next to Quesarado. Oh my God, he's so good.
I mean, that Furia team has actually gotten to a point now where people are starting to wonder if they're like the #2 Brazilian team right now. It used to be so set in stone. It used to be, it was MIBR or LG, and then it was, the Immortals roster. That was #2. Now things have gotten like totally out
I
of
don't even
whack.
think it's a debate. I think Furia are #2. And I think made in Brazil, with them being in so much trouble, like you need to look to these players to be the future of Brazil at this point.
Well, we are still looking at our first match of the day, and I'm told, Dust, that you've got 3 reasons why we should expect something out of this game.
Yeah, so I had 3 reasons why I believe Avangar had the advantage and should ultimately take the win. And so the first one is going to be, I think there's a huge gap in experience between the players on Avangar and the players over at E-United. The guys over in Avangar have been playing together for multiple years now. They've been to majors, they've been through the minor systems, they've competed at these types of tournaments for years on years, and E-United just don't have that. Most of those players are coming from the Mountain Dew League level. In fact, the bulk of their players are, except for Moose, and so I just think that Avangar is the more seasoned team. I think that's pretty apparent. Coming up, our next reason is I think that the overall structure of Avangar is a little bit better. I think strategically speaking, they're a little bit more complete of a team. They have really well functioning defaults. They have good set pieces. They just seem a little bit more refined, whereas I feel like United are, more reliant on individual play, a scrappy style, a lot more fast paced. They're not as refined, not on the same page. So I think that Avangar is a little bit tidier, I guess you could say. And then finally, my third point is I think that while there is a lot of promising talent on United, such as, a guy like Cooper and Markey and Food, there definitely are some up and coming Americas players. Guys like James and Quickert in particular have been performing on a top top international level for at least a year now. Like, they have been really, really solid. Everyone looks to those two guys maybe be prospects for Na'Vi in the future. That's how good they are. So when you're in an environment like this against unexperienced players over at United, certainly I feel like the firepower is going to be a little bit more reliable on the Avangard side.
Definitely. I have to agree with you on that. Avangard definitely look to be the stronger team, but actually low-key, I think United is going to surprise us. Last week in the EPL in LA, they performed really well. They actually beat Renegades in a BO3, then they beat INTS in a BO3, which INTS is already at this tournament, and they had a really close series versus, who was it?
Energy.
Versus NRG. Yeah, it was actually really close. They lost in 2 maps, but United, they looked strong. They're definitely not as land proven as Avangard, but I think they're definitely going to show, and they had so much confidence.
All right.
Let's take a look at the vetoes as well, so we'll see what map we're going to end up on. I like what Dustin did there, too, by the way. I don't know if you noticed. Instead of it saying Avangard will win, he said should win.
Yeah.
Maybe he is an expert because he's protecting himself in the event that he makes a false prediction. He said, I didn't say they would. I said they should.
I think that's like an important phrase. But yeah, as we get into these map vetoes, obviously United's map pool is really hard to know because they've only had limited time together. And then Vertigo obviously just throws a spanner into the works. You don't know who's going to ban it or who wants to let it go all the way through. So I'm no surprise here to see Avangard ban Nuke and Overpass. It's actually exactly what I expected. Maybe Mirage might get taken off by them as well. Actually, United did, so they kind of did him a favor. So, man, I don't know. It's starting to weasel that direction. We only have a couple of options
left. Here comes
left.
the Vertigo ban right here.
There you go, Avangard.
Boo. I just really want to see Vertigo played on land.
You think we're going to see it this tournament, Bog?
I feel like we could.
We should.
I feel like once we get to the BO3 stages, I think that it's more likely that we'll encounter Vertigo because I feel like teams are going to kind of like leave that in there. That'll be like the bait. Like we'll see if we'll dangle it out there and see if someone's going to take that versus like a Nuke. And I think in general, teams are probably going to be more willing to play Vertigo just because so many teams know what to expect out of it.
Yeah, it's actually come up a couple of times at Copenhagen games already this weekend, so we're starting to see some teams kind of drift that direction a little bit. So yeah, it definitely could happen here.
And Vertigo is a much faster-paced, it's a fast-paced map. It's a lot of quick reactions, and so newer teams, they tend to like those style of maps where it's not so, it's more mechanical heavy instead of strategical heavy.
And I feel like that could be the kind of thing that benefits like the North American teams. Like a team like E United might excel on a map like that where you've got these like nutty fraggers who are just coming in, like guys like Marky who can really just like swing the hammer in game and just start going nuts with a rifle. I just really hope that we get to see it. I really do. But
what map did we land on? I didn't
Inferno.
even see.
It's
Inferno.
We were so busy talking about Vertigo that we didn't even pay attention to the fact that we were going to be seeing Inferno. We do have Avangard setting up on stage. Both teams getting into position and readying up. Look at that stage, too. That is beautiful.
It does look good up there, and so do some of those players up there who've been looking really good lately over on the Avangard side. Obviously, most people are going to be familiar with them because of their progress through the major system at IEM Katowice. They flew through the minor at the major, flew through the challenger stage, looked really good in the legend stage as well. They beat Energy, they beat FaZe, they were competitive against Liquid and Na'Vi, only getting eliminated by teams like Na'Vi and INTS, who are top 5 teams in the world. So they're certainly of that top international caliber. I will say it's a little bit hard to put your thumb on Avangard's true level of play because I feel like I've seen them go back and forth between good performances and disappointing ones. Like they had a really big performance at Epicenter, that's how they kind of lifted off at the end of last year, but then they bombed out of IEM Chicago and the PLG Grand Slam events you think they should be able to capitalize on based on their level in other tournaments. So I feel like I'm not quite sure where this team is headed, but what is for certain is that they have a lot of talent, particularly in Jame and Quickard, like you see Jame here on your screen, the in-game leader and the primary opper. Puts up monster demos on an in-and-out basis, and even Buster here sitting there as well, a pretty reliable third fragger for this team.
Definitely, and Avangard, speaking of E United on Inferno, they haven't been playing it much on LAN recently, but their online record is pretty even. I'm looking to Cooper. Cooper with that op on that CT side, Inferno is going to be really crucial for them to close out this victory.
I mean, the crazy thing is, right, like you mentioned they beat Renegades in a best of 3. That's actually a really big achievement.
Let's be real.
Renegades look good.
If you said that 6 months ago, people would be like, like not that big of a deal. But now, I think Renegades is actually, what, top 5 team now?
Okay, I do have to add a caveat here that I feel like is very important and we need to do it justice. Renegades was using 2 stand-ins at EPL, and so was INTZ. So you're kind of playing against a weaker form of those 2 teams. What I will at least say, though, and you're right about, is United did look good individually at that tournament, and that's really important. Mark and Cooper were putting up really big numbers. That's important for these guys that don't have that much experience to at least get in the LAN environment and be able to frag pretty consistently. So at the very least, they got much due experience.
For sure, it definitely is important because United, I mean, they're a pretty new team. I mean, they've had a huge roster overhaul, and this will be their second LAN, I believe, as a unit since their roster changes. And so
Yeah.
having that confidence booster prior to coming in, and especially because that EPL LAN is a little bit more laid back, there's not a crowd, it was in a studio setting, and having a little bit of practice in a LAN setting like that prior to a tournament is definitely going to help them.
And then they also have the new coach coming in. Like, I don't think A2Z has been coaching them for that long. I mean, he came in kind of when they made all the roster changes, bringing in, you know, Marky and bringing in Vanity and bringing in Food and bringing in Cooper. And like you feel like this team very really resembles the old roster of United. The only one that's left is Moose. And he's kind of on the end, like shaking, like, please don't
He's the
cut
OG.
me.
He's the original member.
He was one of their best players on the old roster.
Yeah, he
so
still
it wasn't
is.
surprised that he's still around, but at the same point in time, you have to feel like you're looking around like, I am outnumbered here now.
Yeah. I mean,
For
here's
sure.
the thing. At least some of these players have played together before, like Cooper and Marky were like some of the building blocks of Swole Patrol during their run through the MDL last season to actually promote them into the EPL, which turned into Lazarus, where Swag and Zelsis are still kind of holding that spot down. And then, of course, you have Food and Vanity, who are kind of a combo pair who played in the MDL at Singularity, who were a team that was very near to making into the MPL this previous season, and at times would do pretty well kind of in some of the smaller tournaments within the Americas region. So there is still some familiarity there, even if this group as a unit is certainly new to playing together as a full lineup.
And we just saw Cooper on the screen. Cooper, I gotta talk about him. He's such an exciting player to watch. I remember watching him coming through Swole Patrol. He started off as a rifler, was a pretty quiet player, and then all of a sudden he took over the opping role. He even in-game led for a little bit, and his growth within the last year coming out into the scene has been really admirable to see.
Now you can vote in chat to see what you guys think is going to happen. Exclamation point AVG for Avangar, exclamation point EU for E United. The interesting thing is there is a bit of a dark cloud that hangs over this team, right? Like, it's like the elephant in the room that no one wants to talk about. And all the roster changes in the last few months have been like ripe with controversy. Like the Cooper coming in thing, there was obviously a lot of drama between him and his old team and his brother, and then obviously that switch as well coming in. You gotta hope that like this team succeeds, because if it doesn't, I feel like people are gonna be almost like using that as fuel for fire. Like, I want to see it work, so then people can go, okay, even though those moves maybe left a lot of people with some question marks in their heads, it worked.
Yeah, I mean, United needs stability. That's just the fact of the matter. I mean, they were constantly cycling between players, you know, between like Finesse coming in, Relics in and out, Dazzle in and out. They were seeking some type of stability. So at least they now, with these moves, even if they've been somewhat controversial in the community, at least it gives them a stable lineup to use for hopefully the long term and try to get that organization back on track with its CSGO.
For sure.
Dust, what do you got? I think I know where you're going, but
Yeah, I mean, I think with Inferno, it's going to come down to Food and Marky taking on Quicker and Buster on the B bomb side on both sides, because they both play B, CT, and T side, and we know banana control is going to be so massive. I think that this game hinges on that a lot, and I just have to favor Avangar because I feel like Buster and Quicker are the more proven firepower on the land environment.
I'm surprised it came down to Inferno, actually. I'm a little bit nervous for United. Inferno is definitely, it's not as mechanically heavy as it is strategically heavy, and as we mentioned, United is a little bit of a newer unit, but I still have to vote for United. I mean, they're an American team, and my heart goes for NA.
so Dust, you've got Avangar, Christine, you're going to United, and I'm the swing vote, but let's be real. Rock, Flag, and Eagle. I always stick with the NA. I gotta go with E United. You know, they're my boys on stage. I hope that they're able to pull out a victory, because I would love to see it happen for them. It's going to be difficult. You know, you're playing against a team who's got LAN experience, and you're playing on a map that might be a little bit more difficult for you, but come on, like, how can you go against the red, white, and blue? What's wrong with you?
I mean, someone has to be reasonable on this desk when we're talking about, you know, predictions and who's most likely to win, who's more proven, who has better results and more proven talent. It's not that I don't think United can do a good job here. In fact, I think Inferno, at the very least, it's technical, but in a different way. Like, the meta is very well fleshed out on this map. Like, you know exactly what you need to be doing. You need to be taking control of top mid. You need to be taking control of banana. It's all going to come down to who wins those exchanges in the early round portions. And if you have a little bit of something extra cooked up, like maybe a tricky use of smokes for a cool execute, or some nice, well-refined set pieces that you can kind of use to, you know, help your default, assist you, use a little bit more cloak and dagger method. So I think that at the very least, like, Inferno will be a comfort. Everyone plays that map. You're not going to be lost in this situation. I think, it just comes down to key duels, and I just think that Avangar have the better players to win those fights on a more regular basis.
Let's see if Dust was right. We'll go ahead and look at the Twitch chat, see if you guys agreed. I mean, I think there is a little bit potential confusion there. So it's not actually as one-sided as I thought it would be, with Avangar being 59%, 41% for E United. I'd said it in like like the rehearsals was like, well, technically EU, that's you're like Europe, so maybe people will accidentally vote for EU United and give them a little bit of an extra boost. And you know, Avangard isn't a European team; they're a CIS team, so like maybe that's the little edge. That's all they need is like a cute way of pretending that EU United is not going to have a hard time with this game.
I think United, they're going to have a little bit of a hard time. As we mentioned, Inferno, it takes a lot of discipline. It is a straightforward map. It's been played so much over the past few years. So generally, players have a really good understanding of how it's played. However, it takes so much discipline to be able to actually execute that. So that's what I'm going to be looking out for.